Released by Square Enix in the year 2004 on mobile phones, before Crisis, Final Fantasy VII would be Square Enix's first original mobile title. Directed by Hajime Tabata, who also directed Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy Type 0, and Final Fantasy XV, and written by series regular Kazushige Nojima, the focus was on creating a story with the Turks as the protagonists. For characters, the player can choose to play as one of 11 playable Turk agents, each with a unique weapon specialization and their own origin story. For gameplay, combat is in real time, and the player can gain experience to level up their stats and materia. The phone game had a unique materia generation system where the player could take a picture and it would make a new materia based on the dominant color of the photo. For story, the player assumes the role of the Turks, while combating the terrorist organization Avalanche. Additional gameplay modes to gain more items or equipment, or side story chapters and optional bosses were added after release, and a re-release was rumored at one point. Keep in mind, this game was never released in English, so don't mind name discrepancies, and contextually I'll be recapping a playthrough that utilized the female agent shotgun, so I'll be referring to the original character as the female agent. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. The game begins in the streets of Midgar, as members of the organization calling itself Avalanche prepare to strike against the Shinra Corporation. Meanwhile, the agent, a new recruit to the Turks, Shinra's elite operatives, is on patrol as she overhears one of the Avalanche members. As she deals with her sudden attack, she calls in the suspicious activity to Song, who advises her to investigate as he turns to report this to the head of the Turks, Bordeaux. As the Avalanche members blow open a route to the Mako reactor, the agent hurries to stop them but is quickly surrounded. Fortunately, another Turk member named Reno comes in to save her, buying her time to stop the enemies already within the reactor, and Reno is called out by the Avalanche officer in charge of this operation. The agent succeeds on her end, but finds Reno is taken down by the one in charge. She attempts to fight back but is knocked out by the man named Sears. As Sears stands victorious, a soldier comes out to tell him that there are new orders by Fujito to gather in Junon. The agent gets them out alive as Song reports the new findings to Bordeaux, learning the group's name is Avalanche and their next move is in Junon, where the president of Shinra currently is. Hurrying to Junon and meeting the president in his suite, they are just in time to save him from a sudden attack on the building by Avalanche. After the agent clears the entire hotel of threats, they escort the president to the venue in which he gives a public speech during which more assassins strike during a sudden blackout. A man named Fujito steps forward to introduce himself and give Avalanche an explosive debut by taking over the Mako cannon with the intent to fire it directly at Shinra headquarters. As the agent and Reno hurry to stop them, Fujito doubles back to shoot President Shinra and head off. The president survives as Bordeaux touches base and authorizes usage of Sephiroth to eliminate their enemy. Reno leads the Shinra troops in a frontal assault to break the Avalanche occupation, while Song leads the agent to deal with the forces inside the cannon. The advanced security measures are also triggered due to the invaders, putting the agent in peril too, as she passes by dozens of slaughtered Avalanche members. As she secures the cannon control room, a sword-wielding woman from Avalanche approaches and attacks, and nothing the agent does seems to faze her. Just in time, the legendary soldier Sephiroth steps in, who was actually the one to kill all the terrorists earlier, though surprisingly the woman is able to block when a Sephiroth strikes. She introduces herself as Elf, the leader of Avalanche, who opts to pull out for now, as Sephiroth warns the agent not to take her lightly. As they debrief, Bordeaux explains the Shinra executives will decide the next course of action, but the one thing that is for certain is that Avalanche is now a recognized threat. A few days later, it has been decided that Soldier will be expanded in order to handle Avalanche, and so new talent will need to be scouted. Reno, Rude, and the agent are assigned to work together on this effort as they search out Soldier candidates, sometimes taking them by gunpoint. Rude explains the reason that so many candidates are needed is because a few qualities are needed to make the cut for Soldier, and so very few will actually make it. One of the noteworthy candidates they pick up in Costa del Sol is a particularly large and battle-hungry man named Azul, who still is no challenge for Rude. Later, Song warns them Avalanche forces are approaching the harbor they will be docking at, and Sears is there, intent to free the Soldier candidates and prevent Soldier from expanding. As the agent helps fight back Avalanche, Rude, seen as the strongest of the Turks, faces down Sears, who takes him down with alarming ease. Song tells him the ship Avalanche is on, and Reno and Rude head out to handle it while the agent settles things with Azul, who actually wants to join Soldier and live a life of constant battle. Meanwhile, the tag team of Reno and Rude is just enough to overpower Sears, as the mission ends up being a success for the Turks. Elsewhere, Elf and Fujito are discussing their next plan, which is to steal some top-secret information from Shinra. Back in Midgar, the agent is there to escort Dr. Rayleigh, who is transporting vital information about Soldier, though among the other guards is a common infantryman named Cloud, who is eager to prove the usefulness of common soldiers to the Turks. His naive ideals and foolhardy bravado constantly interferes with the agent and compromises the mission as he gets on the train and leaves the agent with the enemy, causing her to miss the train as well. Hurrying to catch up, the agent makes it onto the train, walking in on Cloud getting knocked out. She saves them both, though Cloud still complains about the cold nature of the Turks, as well as cursing his own weakness. The agent single-handedly handles the death magic-wielding terrorists while securing the train, protecting the doctor, and babysitting Cloud. The enemy manages to steal away the disc, though fortunately it's biometrically locked to her. Leaving for her next assignment, the agent recognizes Cloud's guts for constantly trying, and the two seem to understand each other just a little bit better. Elsewhere, it turns out Fujito is able to get past the security measures of the disc and analyze it. Now learning the secrets of Soldier, they seek to improve their anti-soldier measures, though there are a few things they will need from Dr. Hojo, the head of Shinra's science department. A few days later, the Shinra executives are discussing the increased damage being caused directly by Avalanche, and Vice President Rufus points out Avalanche is suspiciously aware of Turk operations and movement, as well as evading investigations on their headquarters, suggesting an information leak somewhere. As more time passes, we see in Icicle Lodge some troops of Avalanche are somehow getting a substantial upgrade that puts them on par with actual soldiers. The Turks get the report as the agent is sent to investigate, where she finds tanks full of strange liquid Avalanche has been immersing their new forces with, as well as captured Shinra soldiers. She takes on the leader of the Raven Special Forces, Tierce, and soon runs into another Turk, Two Guns, who helps her escape. She's surprised to run into Tierce fully recovered somehow, and after taking him down again, Fujito now steps in, revealing the capsules she discovered are what allowed them to revive ravens like Tierce. Boasting their immortality, he still disposes of Tierce given his repeat failures to defeat the agent, claiming Shinra lives will replace those stolen from the planet. They spar with Fujito, who is more than able to handle both Turks, though another Turk careens in with a truck to rescue them and escape together. He introduces himself as martial arts as they return to base, and after debriefing, President Shinra personally orders Zack from Soldier to aid them in destroying the facility. Curiously, Avalanche again knows of their operation and ambushes them, capturing the soldiers and killing everyone else. Zack and the agent break in to find it curiously empty, and the captured soldiers have been brainwashed to fight them. Zack snaps them back to their senses just before they die anyway, but it's too late as a self-destruct sequence is activated and Zack takes care of another Raven leader before clearing the way for them to escape in time. Meanwhile, with all the obvious information leaks compromising Shinra's success, Verdot is dismissed as the head of General Affairs investigations and is forced to leave the Turks, who are being shifted to now report to Director of Security Heidegger, who also leads Shinra's private army. Heidegger orders them to work security detail in Junon, where Avalanche troops are said to be headed. Song goes to see Verdot, who is now an observer, knowing full well the leak was never his fault, and unable to accept Verdot's dismissal. Heidegger does not value the Turks, though the feeling is mutual, making communication rocky as Avalanche troops flood Junon in order to take over the airship there. With Heidegger providing no guidance and enemy forces outmaneuvering them, the Turks are soon overwhelmed, and Verdot can no longer watch in silence. He blackmails President Shinra directly for his old position, while reassuring him his secret mission is still underway, and quickly leads the Turks into surviving and repelling the Avalanche invasion. After the operation, Verdot says he still doesn't know who was leaking information to Shinra, but his best guess would be Dr. Hojo, which would also explain Avalanche's recent gain of strength. Suddenly, there is a massive monster outbreak in Shinra headquarters from Hojo's lab thanks to Avalanche troopers, and the agent is assigned to monster extermination. As she approaches Hojo's lab, she witnesses firsthand Fujito and Sears discussing dealings with Hojo, including claiming responsibility for the lab monster release. They offer him research data on something far greater than Soldier in exchange for working for them, and though the agent attempts to interrupt them, they show off to Hojo their own modified soldiers with powerful regenerative abilities. Intrigued, Hojo follows Avalanche away, and also recognizes Fujito as the one who stole the Soldier data earlier. Meanwhile, President Shinra demands Sephiroth be deployed to deal with the pursuit, as they know they cannot trust Hojo to place loyalty above research. The enemy succeeds in stealing a helicopter and getting away with Hojo, wherein Fujito informs Hojo about their leader Elf, offering her as Hojo's next test subject. They sweeten the deal for him by mentioning Avalanche has a secret sponsor, enabling them to have facilities on par with Shinra. Meanwhile, the agent has her pursuit halted as Avalanche drops a dragon on her, but it's instantly dealt with by the powerful Sephiroth who arrives on the scene. With a single swipe, Sephiroth also cuts down the helicopter out of the sky, and Avalanche is forced to flee, surrendering Hojo. Hojo keeps to himself what he's learned from Fujito, admitting to himself he won't leave Shinra mainly because Sephiroth is still here, and still growing. Back in their base, their mysterious sponsor is displeased at Fujito's rogue actions, but still informs them of one of Shinra's top secrets, the location of the last surviving Ancient. At the same time, the agent finds herself lost in the slums and happens to find herself outside Aerith's house and protects her from attacking Avalanche troops. As she takes it upon herself to escort Aerith to safety, Aerith takes the opportunity to ask the agent about the world outside Midgar, expressing her dream to travel the world someday too. Unfortunately, Sears corners them personally, taking down the agent and bringing Aerith to Elf. They ask her to join forces to fight Shinra, starting with telling them where the mythical Promised Land is, but Aerith confesses she doesn't know. Instead, she recognizes a voice within Elf, though Fujito stops her from elaborating. They stop the agent giving chase and beat her down, but Elf's health starts acting up, prompting them to leave her and Aerith for now. Meanwhile, Verdot reports that all the workers in the Nibelheim reactor, Shinra's most important reactor, have gone missing. The president mentions it was the company's first reactor, as well as houses a very important secret too, so the Turks are sent in to investigate. The agent is sent in, discovering dragons have swarmed the reactor, running into Tifa in the mountains as she makes her way down to the village. Song informs her Sephiroth is now being deployed to handle the dragons, but will need a guide to the reactor up in the mountains, so the agent persuades Tifa to be the one to help Sephiroth when they get to town. Arriving, the agent greets Sephiroth, Zack, and Cloud, and informs them Tifa will be guiding them up the mountain, which makes Cloud nervous. The next day, everyone notes how odd Sephiroth is acting, and things take a turn for the worst as Sephiroth suddenly decides to burn the whole village down. The agent pursues and confronts him on his madness, but Sephiroth blows her away with his immense strength. The agent is knocked out, barely hearing Cloud check on her and Tifa before barreling after Sephiroth. Zangan, Tifa's martial arts master, now comes in to check on Tifa and get her to safety, as the agent now comes across Cloud after he has collapsed after trying to deal with Sephiroth. Sephiroth then willingly jumps into the life stream, prompting the agent to report that Sephiroth is now dead. Song receives the report while also wondering where Verdot is at such a critical time, as Sephiroth is actually alive, using this time to gather knowledge from the life stream directly. The agent guards the wounded Zack and Cloud until Song and Hojo arrive on scene and ask her to now clear out Shinra Manor for them. While doing so, she learns of failed experiments, such as their attempts to directly fuse materia to the human body, which was deemed impossible, though bonding through means of a prosthetic limb has been found. Meanwhile, Verdot arrives to Nibelheim, and Hojo is reminded of when they first met, and Hojo involved Verdot in one of his earlier experiments. Concerned for her safety, Verdot goes in after the agent, and when investigating the basement laboratory, they find themselves in a strange illusion of Midgard somehow. Verdot takes the lead in this recreation of the agent's first day on the job, and the agent is impressed to see how strong Verdot is in person. He mentions he has an artificial limb that can equip materia, as they cross into another illusion of Calm, Verdot's hometown, on the day it was bombed and he lost his arm. Unfortunately, it turns out it was all due to a miscommunication, though regardless, the destruction of Calm and the death of his family is on his hands. To make matters worse, he tried to bring his wife, daughter, and all survivors to Nibelheim, but they were all killed by Shinra in order to cover up Verdot's mistake. Breaking out of the illusion, they decide to put the past behind them, quietly acknowledging Nibelheim will be covered up in a similar fashion. Outside, Hojo ensures the survivors of Nibelheim have been rounded up inside the manor will not be killed, but instead be living samples for his research, though their silence will be guaranteed. Song, Reno, and Rude all object, saying this job is too dirty even for them, and Verdot understands, letting them leave as he will complete the job himself. To himself, he accepts he died internally during the Calm incident, and losing himself in work is the only way he can forget the pain. Leaving, the agent is glad Tifa got away, but wishes she managed the same for Cloud and Zack. Back in base, Verdot reveals to President Shinra that the headquarters for Avalanche is in Wutai, who authorizes their destruction, and Verdot now reveals who the mole in Shinra is. Meanwhile, the mole is leaking to Avalanche that Shinra is on their way to blow up their base, mentioning that with Sephiroth gone, the Turks are the only ones standing in the way of their plans. As the agent is deployed to head the operation, she runs into a young Yuffie, who sees her take care of an Avalanche trooper and learns that materia might be the edge she needs to make her dream of restoring Wutai to its former glory a reality. After setting up the bombs, the agent is surrounded by Sears, Fujito, and Elf, and after battling, the agent manages to edge out a win, though after she leaves, they turn out to just be doppelgangers. Afterwards, the base is successfully destroyed. Shinra is fooled into thinking the Avalanche leaders all died too, and they now move into restoring public opinion. For that, they intend to launch the world's first rocket into space, and at the same time it's revealed that Rufus is the mole dealing directly with Avalanche, intent on using the rocket launch ceremony to have his father killed. As time passes, it's now the opening ceremony for the rocket launch, and the agent is the bodyguard for Rufus. The ace pilot, Captain Sid, comes out to greet them, proud to be part of Shinra's aerospace program and making history with them. Rufus believes the space program is a waste of resources, but it doesn't dampen Sid's passion. Not far, Sears is there to sabotage the launch and stage the president's assassination. Rufus agrees to go on a tour of the rocket to distract Sid and the agent, and in the meanwhile, one of the oxygen tanks is stolen, preventing launch of the rocket. Though they get a replacement one in, their best mechanic continues running tests on it, unsatisfied with the test results. It's down to the countdown of the launch, and she's still down there, pressuring Sid into sacrificing his dreams and canceling the launch at the last second. Sid is still optimistic the rocket will fly again, but with the public embarrassment of the failed launch, Shinra halts the space program due to Rufus's growing persuasion. Meanwhile, Song now notices the occupation of Avalanche troops in the reactor being built in Corel and mobilizes the Turks to reclaim it. Meanwhile, within the coal mines of Corel, a miner named Barrett is tricked by Avalanche into leaving, and as he leaves, hopes the new Mako reactor will help the town flourish. He encounters the agent, who tells him the truth of Avalanche's occupation, and Barrett chooses to help the agent, guiding her into the reactor unnoticed and saving her life from a boulder. Surprisingly, she finds Rufus there, and Verdona steps in, ordering them to seize Rufus and exposing him as the mole within Shinra and mastermind behind Avalanche. However, Rufus reverses the situation, showing Fujito above them alive and well, who has them all surrounded. However, Fujito chooses now to betray Rufus, explaining Avalanche has enough support so they don't need him anymore, and prepares to blow up the reactor. As Elf and Sears come out, Verdona recognizes Elf as Felicia, his daughter long thought dead. This shock causes forgotten memories to come out now, as Elf remembers being experimented on and left for dead by Hojo after the bombing of Calm, causing her to collapse. Fujito is not surprised by her collapse and was counting on it, as Sears chooses to escape with Elf out of concern, and Fujito proceeds to blow up the reactor. The Turks urge Verdot to go after his daughter as they continue to arrest Rufus by order of the president, and Verdot announces this will likely be his last mission, as death is the only way out for a Turk. He now chooses Song as his successor to lead the Turks going forward, as they hurry to escape the reactor. Sears knocks the agent down into the reactor depths, while at the same time the president sends another director, Scarlet, down to Corel to handle the bombing of the reactor. As the agent recovers, they escape the bomb explosion but are now trapped underground while the facility can still crumble on top of them. It turns out Avalanche has turned on Sears too, as it was Fujito who pushed Sears down the reactor when he knocked into the agent. The two form an uneasy alliance, as Sears reveals Fujito has been using everyone to reveal his goal of wiping out all life on the planet, in order for the planet to heal its own wounds. In order to do so, Elf's unique materia must be activated alongside the unique one he has on him, but Fujito is still trying to figure out how. As they move, Sears' injuries get worse as he reveals his history behind meeting and being inspired by Elf and her mission to topple Shinra. The agent commits to saving Elf since she's Verdot's daughter, and working together, Sears sacrifices himself to hurl the agent across a gap to safety as the reactor collapses and swallows him. Back at headquarters, the president makes Rufus's connection to Avalanche top secret to only himself and the Turks. Otherwise, the agent is still in critical condition on top of being exposed to Mako inside the reactor, so recovery is uncertain. Finally, since the only way out of the Turks is death, Song is ordered to find Verdot and kill him for certain. As the agent comes to, she's greeted by Turks Shuriken and Katana, aka Cisne and Balto, who inform her she's been in a coma for 3 years, as well as of the curious pyramid materia left with her from Sears. She tells them all of Fujito's plot, and while they already know this, Avalanche has curiously ceased all activity since that day. Fujito, Elf, and Verdot have also all been missing, and the agent is informed of the kill order issued on Verdot. Back on her feet, the agent's first comeback mission is with Reno to capture an endangered species for Dr. Hojo, a tiger-like beast with a burning tail that can talk in Cosmo Canyon. We now see Nanaki speaking to Bugenhagen as they prepare for a 50-year ritual that must be performed with a male and female of Nanaki's tribe, but he's nervous. After he leaves, the Turks come in to speak to Bugenhagen, who mentions Verdot was here earlier. He was asking about the materia inside of Elf that can apparently call forth an extraordinary summon that can end all life on the planet. Even though Fujito cannot evoke it yet, the materia is still draining Elf's life force to compensate for being incomplete, so Verdot is looking for a way to safely extract the materia from her body as he also searches for Elf. Surprisingly, they find Avalanche troopers here and in large numbers, while Danae, a female of Nanaki's species, finds him running away from his responsibilities because he doesn't want to be separated from her. Fujito now approaches Bugenhagen, explaining that he needs to figure out how to activate Elf's materia, since the planet is doomed and the only solution is to return everything to the life stream and start anew. The agent then spots Danae and gives chase to capture her, and Nanaki summons his courage to step in and fight to protect Danae and the canyon. The agent wins, but agrees to allow Nanaki to participate in the ritual before they leave with him. At the same time, it's reported to Song that 2 research samples in Nibelheim have escaped, and it's actually Zack carrying out a comatose Cloud away. The Turks are deployed to apprehend them, but Song warns them the army is also marching out to get them. The agent is surprised to learn Zack is the fugitive sample, and after informing Song, the agent chooses to look the other way as a favor to the soldier. Also, she announces her intent to investigate what occurred in the Shinra Manor lab, and arriving, is shocked to find Verdot also investigating the same lab. In the basement, they find Vincent in a coffin, who reveals he was a former Turk and partner to Verdot. He reveals he has seen the strange pyramid materia before and directs them to where it is, while Verdot mentions they must gather 4 of them in order to save Elf. With some trickery, Fujito steals it from under their noses, and to fool the army that is spying on the agent's actions, Verdot knocks down the agent and chases after Fujito. He leaves her a note which directs her to speak to Reeve for additional assistance. Meanwhile, it's reported to the president by Director Scarlet that the Turks are defying their assassination order and aiding Verdot. In response, he orders Scarlet to handle the assassination. At the same time, Song gathers all the Turks, who unanimously agree to put their lives on the line and turn against the company in order to save Verdot and Elf. Now recognized enemies of Shinra, the Turks still have Rufus hostage in their secret headquarters, while they send the agent to meet Reeve. The agent encounters Ketchi, Reeve's remotely controlled toy cat, who tells them another pyramid materia is in Gongaga, while mentioning he and Verdot also go way back. As the agent locates another piece of the pyramid materia under the presence of Avalanche, she is surprised to be aided by Sears, who survived after all thanks to Verdot, who reveals himself. He explains that when all 4 parts of the pyramid materia are gathered, Elf will be saved, but a being known as Zirconiade will appear and destroy everything. Sears has an idea that if an imperfect version of Zirconiade is summoned, Elf will be saved, and they can defeat the summon before it ruins the world. They leave together to gather the last piece, though their meeting is spied upon by the army. When word reaches President Shinra, he assigns Scarlet to eliminate the Turks as well, and capture Verdot so he can get back Rufus from the Turks. In the meanwhile, Zack and Cloud are caught by the army despite the efforts of the Turks, and as time passes, there is new Avalanche activity in Corel Prison. The agent is sent in to investigate, and while crossing a desert, discovers a dehydrated Shallua collapsed in the desert, who recognizes the Turks. The agent manages to get the materia they need before Avalanche does, but Shallua spits back that she's a victim of the Turks, as she's looking for her sister Shulk, who was taken by the Turks to become Soldier. She also reveals she used to be with Avalanche in order to learn more about Soldier, but admits the identity of the group has changed. They are saved by Verdot and Sears, who take Shallua away, while Scarlet arrives to corner Verdot and the agent with her army of robots and advanced weaponry. Verdot offers himself up to spare the agent, but Scarlet beats them both down anyway, while sparing the agent for now. Song arrives too late and informs the other Turks of Verdot's capture, who are at the end of their rope as Shinra directors all agree to disband the Turks. The president boldly publicizes the execution of Verdot, and while being cut off from Shinra, the Turks find it challenging to find out details, though they have succeeded in finding the materia to save Elf. Splitting up into a force to save Verdot and a force to save Elf, the agent is hiding in the wall market with the other Turks when they talk to Elena, the clumsy but hardworking little sister to the Turk handgun, who also works in the same bar. Sears points out Fujito will come after them since they have the rest of the materia he needs, and takes one piece to avoid a worst-case scenario. Meanwhile, Rufus decides to inform the Turks of when Verdot will be executed, but strikes a deal with Song alone for the location. After they talk, Song has the agent secure an escape route, while he joins Reno and Rude in rescuing Verdot. Unfortunately, Avalanche also kidnaps Elena, and Sears learns there is still a way to summon Zirconiade perfectly right when he is confronted by Fujito. The agent chases Avalanche onto a train in Midgar, and ends up trading the rest of the materia for Elena's release, which ends up leaving a respectful impression on Elena about the Turks. She hurries to get it back, but they end up slipping away, though Song and his team succeed in extracting Verdot. With everyone distracted, the president manages to steal back Rufus from the Turks' headquarters, and Fujito manages to use all 4 pieces of the support materia on Elf, beginning his summon. The agent dashes in to save Elf before the final materia is forcibly extracted from her body, clashing with Fujito. Their duel is interrupted as Elf's materia comes out on its own and joins the others, fusing to become one materia in the hands of Fujito, who flees to now attempt to summon Zirconiade perfectly. Meanwhile, Verdot and Elf are safe in the presence of Song, Reno, and Rude, though they soon battle the army on their heels. Back with the agent, the rest of the Turks are gathered before the path Fujito followed to Zirconiade, and split up into teams to find him. Catching up to Fujito, the agent is joined by Sears, as they combine their efforts to finally beat down the radical leader of Avalanche. Refusing to lose, Fujito takes Zirconiade's materia and fuses it into himself, transforming into a powerful monster, and strikes down Sears with a mortal blow. The agent is pushed to their limit, edging out a win against the augmented Fujito, and with his dying breath, Sears leaps in to blow himself up alongside Fujito, shattering the materia and ending Fujito for good, though Zirconiade's awakening still continues. Meanwhile, the army delivers new orders that by order of the president, the Turks' punishment will be suspended on the condition that Verdot is executed. Understanding that their old order ends now, Song turns about to shoot Elf and Verdot, stunning both Reno and Rude. Back with the agent, they make it to Zirconiade, who has manifested and already proves to be more than they can handle. At this time, the rest of the Turks all trickle in to back up the agent, having succeeded in cutting off Zirconiade's power sources. Taking turns at the overwhelming monster, their combined teamwork wear it down, but at a heavy cost as one by one their numbers fall against Zirconiade. Pushed to the brink of death, the agent has flashbacks of the people they've helped along the way, and suddenly realizes her own limit break. The attack lands with tremendous effect, as Zirconiade is blown back and begins breaking apart in its defeat. Reno and Rude are outside the fight as they witness Zirconiade explode, catching the rest of their allies with it in tragic sacrifice. As the game ends, Song appears before a Shinra inquiry board, as only himself, Reno, and Rude have survived. Rufus now steps in, objecting to the disbanding of the Turks, pointing out their loyalty in the form of ending the leaders of Avalanche and Verdot. Though to the side, Rufus does so after demanding their loyalty to him. Song now lets his hair down, announcing a new age for the Turks going forward. As events pass and it's now during the final act of Final Fantasy VII, when Meteor is falling, the Turks are helping evacuate the citizens of Midgar, but are struggling to keep up. At this time, Verdot, who Song helped fake his and Elf's death, now appears with the rest of the missing Turks since the Zirconiade fight, who are actually all alive and are here to help complete the final mission of the Turks together. Before Crisis, Final Fantasy VII has enjoyed the success of 1.6 million downloads.